Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I saw Captain Marvel in the theaters, so I wanted to review this movie. And yeah, I'm not a huge Marvel fan, so forgive me if I get something wrong, but I do like it enough where I would go to the theater to see it. And yeah, as I did with the Lego Movie 2, I'm gonna be reviewing Captain Marvel in two videos, spoiler-free review and a spoiler review. So this is our spoiler-free review, and yeah, I'm gonna be talking about my thoughts on Captain Marvel. So I think all in all, Captain Marvel was a pretty good movie. We'll start off with talking about Carol Danvers herself and her character. I feel like one of the big parts of this story is her personal story, along with the intergalactic war as well. And I think the mix is kind of nice. It's a nice personal story combined with something a bit bigger as well. And I think it's done well. I think her acting throughout the movie is pretty good. It feels a bit dry in some areas, but I do feel like that is intentional, as she has no idea who she is, and towards the beginning of the movie, her acting does feel a bit dry, but again, I do feel that is pretty much intentional. Throughout the movie, it definitely gets a lot better, and for the most part, I think her acting is good. Nick Fury in this movie is also really funny, and he is a pretty good character in this movie as well. There was a lot of humor in this movie as well, and I think that's always welcome. A lot of the humor is really nice, but some of the humor does feel a bit out of place, and it just doesn't really fit. So I could have used a bit less humor at times. Another problem I have is some things do feel a bit unnatural almost. Like they just don't really fit necessarily. And there is a big plot twist in the movie that does feel, it's not a bad plot twist, and I'll talk more about it in the spoiler review, but it does feel a bit unnatural. And that's all I would have to say for complaints, pretty much. It did feel kind of unnatural, and maybe there's a better way they could do it. But this movie was really cool in the sense that it showed a lot of characters who had appeared in different movies. Of course, the biggest example is Nick Fury. Ronan the Accuser also does make a return in this movie, so that was really cool to see some familiar faces in this movie. And it is also set in the 90s, which I think is really cool. It's fun to see Earth in the 90s portrayed in a Marvel movie. Now, for the Kree Society itself, I think it is also pretty cool how it's portrayed. I like the idea of the Supreme Commander, or the Supreme Intelligence, not Supreme Commander, in this movie, and I think that was done pretty nicely. It was kind of fun to see those scenes as well, and just seeing some of the Kree people as well, and seeing their characters expand was also done well for the most part. This movie also did a great job of, kind of explaining what Captain Marvel would do in the future for the Marvel series. And again, I'm not really going to explain that as it kind of does tie into spoilers, but it was pretty cool. And again, there were a lot of good characters. I especially loved Ben Mendelsohn's Talos character. I thought that was really cool, especially in the beginning of the movie. And towards the middle of the movie, I feel like it kind of gets a bit boring, but he's a great actor, and he does a great job playing villains. I especially love Director Krennic from Star Wars, and he does a really good job with his character in Marvel as well. And just one last thing to add, I do kind of feel like Captain Marvel is a bit way too overpowered, and a bit way too, yeah, that made no sense, but I do feel like her powers seriously could have been toned down a lot. I mean, it's just kind of typical for Marvel at this point. Pretty much all superheroes are ridiculously overpowered, but with Captain Marvel, I feel like it's just ridiculous. Like, she is just way too overpowered, and I kind of feel like she didn't really have an equal match in this movie necessarily, and it was just kind of her winning throughout the movie, and she kind of wasn't really evenly matched in this movie. The villains just were not really a match for her, and she did feel really, really overpowered. There was also a lot of space action in this movie, and, that's fine and all. I did like the action itself, but it really felt heavily inspired from Star Wars, and in the end, Star Wars definitely does a much better job with space action, but I did think that it was done well for the most part. It was fun to see another movie kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, exploring different universes and such, and, this one also includes Earth heavily, so it was really fun to see a movie that included Earth as well as different universes that we have seen in the MCU before. And I think for that reason, this movie was really fun. I would have to give this movie an 8 out of 10 probably. And I think it was good for the most part. There were some errors that I did list, such as Captain Marvel being too overpowered or some things feeling unnatural. But other than that, I do feel like the movie was good and it is worth seeing. But if you do go to see it, do keep this in mind. the post-credit scene is not worth waiting for. The mid-credit scene is pretty good, and it's a great mid-credit scene, but the post-credit scene is just not good. But yeah, all that aside, thanks for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone ever you know, and I will see you next time.